Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a massive, honestly, incredibly common headache for modern developers, the multi-code-based nightmare. I mean, if you build software today, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You've got this great product, right? But to reach all your users, you need it on the web, you need an iOS app, an Android app, and hey, maybe you even need a desktop version for your power users. Historically, that meant building and maintaining completely separate projects. It's exhausting just thinking about it.
So let me ask you this. Do you want to ship to web, mobile, and desktop without maintaining 3 different apps? Of course you do. It's a huge pain point. When you maintain separate apps, they inevitably start to drift apart over time. A feature gets updated on the web, but the mobile app, yeah, that lags a sprint behind. Then the desktop app has some completely weird, unique UI bug. It is exhausting, it drains resources, and frankly, it's just a chaotic way to scale. But what if there was another way? Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our pragmatic, fluff-free roadmap for today. We'll start with the cross-platform dilemma. Then we'll define exactly what Quasar is. After that, we'll look at the one codebase approach, explore the component-driven advantage, and finally, pinpoint exactly where Quasar fits best in your stack. First up, part 1, the cross-platform dilemma. You know, assembling a stack piece by piece and watching those apps slowly drift apart. Which brings us to part 2, defining Quasar. Let's introduce our solution, and spoiler alert, it's not magic, it's just incredibly pragmatic. Simply put, Quasar is a Vue.js-based framework for building responsive, high-performance applications from a single project. The absolute key takeaway here is that it gives you a production-ready UI and a built-in build system right out of the gate. So if you already know Vue, you're going to feel right at home. You manage state with standard Vue patterns, organize your code just like you normally would, but Quasar adds this powerful layer of tooling. That means you are absolutely not rewriting your UI for every single environment. Now, let's be real for a second. Quasar is not a magical, write once, run perfectly everywhere with zero effort kind of wand. Cross-platform development is always going to involve trade-offs. You've got different screen sizes, hardware access rules, platform conventions, the whole shebang. Instead, think of Quasar as integrated tooling that makes the shared parts easy and the platform-specific parts actually manageable. It acknowledges reality and gives you the tools to handle those trade-offs without losing your mind. So how does this compare to just using plain Vue? Well, Vue is fantastic, obviously, but it really just gives you the core framework. You are still left doing all the tedious glue work, stitching together the routing, the layouts, figuring out which CUI libraries to use. Quasar, on the other hand, gives you a complete component set right out of the box, completely integrated with build packaging for multiple targets. It cuts out all that setup time so you can get straight to building actual value for your users. All right, moving on to part 3. One codebase, multiple targets, writing your domain logic exactly once. What's really interesting here is how your core app logic stays shared while targeting some incredibly specific, powerful outputs. With one codebase, you can generate a standard browser-based single-page app for fast iteration. Need offline support? Boom, output a progressive web app or a server-side rendered app for better SEO. If you need an iOS or Android app, Quasar uses a mobile wrapper and native build pipeline for that. It even does Windows, Mac, or Linux desktop apps for internal tools. The logic stays exactly the same, but the deployment targets are vast. So you might be wondering, how does it actually balance shared code with those platform-specific needs? It's all about separating concerns. Your domain logic, data fetching, state management, validation, that's all completely shared. Your UI structure, like pages and forms, is shared too. But what happens when you hit a difference? Say, prompting for camera permissions on an iPhone or tweaking a layout for an ultra-wide desktop monitor. You don't split the app in two, you simply isolate those specific decisions in well-defined spots within the exact same project. It's brilliant. Okay, let's hit part 4, the component-driven advantage, keeping things maintainable as you scale. When you assemble your UI with Quasar's pre-built components, you unlock these amazing compounding benefits. First up, consistency, by default. That means no more rogue typography slowly drifting across different screens. Your validation looks identical everywhere. You also iterate way faster because you aren't stuck reinventing common patterns like modal flows every single time. You get clearer ownership and, crucially, incredible adaptability. These components are already built to handle the weird edge cases, like touch targets on mobile versus keyboard navigation on desktop, so you literally don't have to solve them from scratch.
Think about it with this mental model. Teams can treat components like mini products with defined APIs. I love this concept. When you use a structured framework, a complex data table isn't just a messy pile of markup, it's a standardized building block. This makes code reviews a breeze, and when a new developer joins the team, they can ramp up incredibly fast because the pieces they're working with are completely predictable.
This component-driven approach is a real game changer for accelerating real-world projects. You get to start with sensible defaults for your app shells and navigation. And since you're sharing components, you can build features in vertical slices, meaning when you build a new feature, it's instantly ready for both web and mobile users at the exact same time. Plus, you theme it once to create a unified, cohesive brand identity everywhere. And because the model is so well-defined, you iterate safely. You improve a shared component once, and every single screen using it gets an instant, effortless upgrade.
Finally, part 5, where Quasar fits best. Let's figure out exactly when to pull this tool out of your kit. Quasar's absolute sweet spot is product-oriented applications. We're talking dashboards, SaaS tools, internal business platforms, marketplaces, and workflow apps. Basically, apps where an interactive, highly functional UI is a massive part of the product's core value. It's also an absolute lifesaver for teams that want to standardize entirely on Vue and avoid the absolute headache of juggling multiple repositories. But keeping with our pragmatic tone here, when should you walk away? Honestly, if your project needs a deeply customized, pixel-perfect native UI that has to strictly mimic every single Apple or Google platform convention down to the micro animations, walk away. In those highly specific cases, a fully native approach using Swift or Kotlin is genuinely your best bet. But for almost everyone else, Quasar is the perfect, pragmatic middle ground. So if you're ready to get started, here is a practical workflow. First, shift your mindset. Treat your app as a library of components first and a set of pages second. Quasar makes this feel totally natural, and trust me, it pays huge dividends later on. Second, build one single feature completely end-to-end just to nail down the flow. And third, wait to expand to your mobile or desktop targets until your shared web foundation is rock solid. Don't rush it. Which leaves us with one final thought to wrap up today's explainer. If you're tired of duplicating your effort, if you're a smaller team trying to punch way above your weight, or if you just desperately want to standardize your workflow, are you ready to build cross-platform without the chaos? Quasar offers a seriously powerful way to unify your code and scale efficiently. Thanks for joining me for this breakdown. Take these insights, apply them, and let's see how much they can streamline your next big project.